Hey everyone, welcome to today's Masterclass Explainer. We are going to break down absolutely everything you need to know about Indian agriculture. It's a huge topic, but we've got it completely covered. So let's just dive right in. We've got a really great roadmap for you today. We'll be looking at the different types of Indian farming, our 3 distinct cropping seasons, and the major food and fiber crops. After that, we'll cover agricultural reforms, the incredible bloodless revolution movement, and we'll wrap it all up with a quick revision quiz to totally lock in your memory for the exams. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Types of Indian Farming, going all the way from ancient practices right up to modern plantations. So how do farmers actually grow our food? Well, it all starts with the basics, and that is subsistence farming. The word subsistence literally just means survival. It's farming where your primary, absolute main goal is just feeding your own household first. You're not out there growing crops to get rich or sell on the global market. You're growing cereals and food crops simply to sustain your family. But what's fascinating is that even this type of farming is split into 2 very distinct categories, and it all depends on population pressure. Now, here's where we see a classic problem and solution shift. First up, we have primitive subsistence. Picture a farmer clearing a small patch of land, burning the vegetation, and then using those ashes as a natural fertilizer. In the northeastern states of India, this slash-and-burn method is famously known as Jhumming. When the soil eventually loses its fertility, they just pack up, move to a fresh patch, and let nature heal the old one. Simple, right? But wait, what happens when your population booms? The right of inheritance starts dividing up family land into these tiny little plots, and suddenly there's no fresh land left to move to. You're forced to stay put. Under that immense population pressure, we get intensive subsistence. This forces farmers to squeeze literally every single ounce of yield from their tiny inherited landholdings by using high doses of biochemical inputs and heavy irrigation. Now, flip that completely upside down and you get plantation farming. This is basically commercial farming on steroids. We are talking about a single crop grown over a massive, massive area. It acts as a direct interface between agriculture and industry, which means it requires huge capital and lots of migrant labor. Imagine those vast rolling hills of tea in Assam or coffee in Karnataka. Those are just farms, guys. They're basically sprawling outdoor factories. Moving right along to Section 2, our 3 cropping seasons. Because in agriculture, timing is absolutely everything. India actually has 3 very distinct cropping seasons: Rabi, Kharif, and Zaid. Let's break them down. First, Rabi crops. These are sown in the crisp winter months, from October to December, and then harvested in the summer. Think wheat and mustard. Second, we have Kharif crops. These guys rely heavily on the onset of the mighty monsoon. Planted right as the rains begin, they're harvested in September and October. Paddy, which is where we get rice, and cotton are the absolute stars here. And finally, nestled right between those 2, during the short, really hot summer months, is the Zaid season. This season gives us refreshing, water-rich crops like watermelon and cucumber. Okay, Section 3, Major Food and Fiber Crops. Let's take a look at what actually feeds and clothes the nation. It is wild how fussy some of these plants can be about their geography. Take rice, for example. As the staple food for the majority of Indians, it's a highly demanding Kharif crop. It needs high temperatures, above 25 degrees Celsius, and a soaking rainfall of over 100 centimeters. Then we have tea, which is fussy in a totally different way. It demands warm, moist, and strictly frost-free climates. But look at cotton. This fiber crop thrives in the drier parts of the Deccan Plateau's black soil. It demands exactly 210 frost-free days and bright sunshine just to mature. It's fascinating how specific the demands of these plants are, isn't it? But hey, it is not just about rice and wheat. We absolutely have to talk about the unsung heroes of our diet. Coarse grains like millets, specifically jawar, bajra, and ragi, pack a massive nutritional punch. Ragi, for instance, is just bursting with iron, calcium, and micronutrients. And then there's maize, which is a brilliant crop because it works double duty. It's used both as food for humans and as fodder for our livestock. And then there are pulses. India is actually the world's largest producer and consumer of pulses. Now sure, pulses like orad, mung, and gram are a major source of protein, especially in a vegetarian diet, but they also have an actual literal superpower. Most pulses are leguminous crops. That means they naturally heal the soil by pulling nitrogen straight out of the air and fixing it into the earth. Except for arhar, farmers purposely grow these crops in rotation just to naturally revitalize their fields. Let's pivot for a second and contrast 2 incredible non-food fibers. First up, we have the mighty golden fiber, jute. Jute battles the well-drained, super fertile soils of the floodplains in West Bengal, growing tall to eventually be woven into gunny bags, ropes, and carpets. In total contrast, natural silk takes a completely different, almost magical path. It isn't grown in soil at all. Instead, it's delicately obtained from the cocoons of silkworms that are fed on green mulberry leaves. This beautiful, intricate process of rearing silkworms is called sericulture. All right, that brings us to Section 4, Agricultural Reforms in India. Let's talk about the institutional and technological upgrades that changed everything. So, how did farming evolve over time? Well, right after independence, the priority was purely institutional. We had to abolish the exploitative zamindari system and consolidate heavily fragmented landholdings under the first five-year plan. Then, moving into the 1960s and 70s, we shifted to massive technological upgrades. We introduced the legendary Green Revolution, utilizing high-yielding seeds and packaged technology, alongside the White Revolution, also known as Operation Flood, to hugely boost milk production. Finally, realizing that those early revolutions favored only certain regions, the 1980s and 90s saw a huge push for a comprehensive land development program. This balanced everything out with crop insurance, rural banks, and broader technical reforms for everyone. Section 5, the Bloodless Revolution Movement, and the incredible power of Bhutan and Gram Dan. You guys, this sequence of events is just incredible. It begins with Vinoba Bhave setting out on a walking tour, a padyatra, across the country. During this tour, in a village called Pochampally in Telangana, desperate landless villagers pleaded with him for land just so they could survive. And then, just imagine the historic impact of one man's generosity. Sri Ramchandra Reddy spontaneously stood up and offered 80 acres of his own land to be distributed to 80 landless villagers. This act became known as Bhutan, the land gift. And this incredible gesture actually sparked a chain reaction across all of India. Wealthy zamindars voluntarily gave up entire villages, which is known as Gram Dan, to the landless. That's exactly why this awe-inspiring movement earned the title of the Bloodless Revolution. And finally, Section 6, Chapter Revision and Quiz. It's time to test your masterclass knowledge. All right, active recall time. Question 1. Which one of the following describes a system of agriculture where a single crop is grown on a large area? Is it A, shifting agriculture, B, plantation agriculture, C, horticulture, or D, intensive agriculture? Think back to the start of our explainer when we talked about huge tracts of land and crops like tea in Assam. Do you have your answer? If you are thinking B, plantation agriculture, you nailed it. Like we discussed, this model focuses on scaling a single commercial crop, basically acting as a massive interface between agriculture and industry. Awesome job! Let's keep that momentum going. Question 2. Which one of the following is a Rabi crop? A, rice, B, gram, C, millets, or D, cotton? Try to recall our 3 cropping seasons. Which of these is sown during the cool winter months of October to December? The answer is B, gram. Gram thrives as a Rabi crop alongside wheat and mustard during the winter. Rice, millets, and cotton are all heavily dependent on the monsoon, placing them firmly in the Kharif category. Last one, question 3. Which one of the following is a leguminous crop? Is it A, pulses, B, jawar, C, millets, or D, sesamum? Remember the crops we talked about earlier? The ones with a literal biological superpower of fixing nitrogen directly from the air? Boom! If you chose A, pulses, you are absolutely correct. Pulses are the leguminous heroes of Indian agriculture. Not only are they our primary protein source, but by fixing nitrogen from the air, they heal the soil. This makes them incredibly vital for crop rotation. You have officially mastered Indian agriculture. We've evolved from ancient primitive slash-and-burn practices all the way up to high-tech green revolutions and beautiful social movements like Bhutan. But before we go, I want to leave you with a quick thought. Considering the enormous pressure on our land today with a continually growing population, what technological or social shift do you think will spark our next great harvest revolution? Think about that for a bit. Thank you so much for joining this Masterclass Explainer, and keep that focused learning alive.